Hey, everybody. I am a little delayed today because just my whole day got delayed. And so I am sorry I had to push the live chat back an hour. But thank you for being here. Hello, Edward. Shout out to you, Edward. You actually commented on a video that I made where I mentioned the Coinbase layoffs. Well, not even layoffs. It's a whole it's a whole it's a lot going on with Coinbase and the whole startup industry. So we're going to talk about that. Let me get into StreamYard on my PC. But the job market has definitely shifted, and this is why in multiple videos I say just be careful with things because the job market is constantly changing, right? Just because things are up today doesn't mean it's going to be up tomorrow. So I've said that in multiple videos. People have gotten mad at me for certain videos where I talk about not ghosting employers or not, or just being careful with the whole quiet quit thing, just being very conscious of the fact that we're in a certain environment, or we have been in a certain environment where it was a candidate market, we do what we want, whatever, we're sick of this stuff. I get it, you have struggles with working for certain companies. Sometimes it's just not a good environment. There's bad leadership. There's so many different things you have to deal with. So I definitely think that people have to do what's right for them. However, you have to consider the market that you're into. And you have to think about the future, your future, right? So anyway, there's been a lot of shifts. Hello, Cool Gamer, MLW Fishing Man, and hello, Harold. How are you, Harold? It's been a minute. This is a question I have to ask you all, though. What would you do? Literally, what would you do if you accepted a job and you're getting all ready for the job, right? You're excited, great opportunity, have good pay, whatever's going on with that job. And the company says they're going to rescind, meaning take back the offer that they presented to you. Tell me what you would do in that scenario. Because that's not something that happens often, but it's something that is happening in particular with Coinbase and why Coinbase has been trending. And it's really sad, it's like really tough to imagine being in that position. Like, what would you do? I want to hear from the chat. Like, Edward, what would you do if you accepted a new job and the company's like, hey, we know you're getting ready for this new job, but look, we gotta rescind that offer. We know you're thinking about this new job. We gotta rescind the offer. We're sorry. And by the way, we're gonna give you some severance pay, just but you're not gonna get this new job. We gotta take it back. Like, what would you do in that scenario? Because I don't really know what I would do. I mean, obviously, you got to get back on the job search, of course, but that is triggering. It's like, and kind of in the same frame of a layoff. You're working a job, and then a company says, nope, you're not. We have financial troubles. Your job's terminated. I can understand that a bit more from the business side, but you knew you wanted this person. You came to this agreement with a company, the company came to an agreement with you as a potential employee and actually presented you a legal, legally binding, but really those offers aren't really binding anymore because a lot of them are at will. So meaning you, the employee, the employer can terminate at any time, right? So it's a tough, goodness, it's a tough scenario. So I just want to pull up this article because it's not even funny. It's not funny what happened. But it's upsetting. It's hard to think about. And I'm going to look at what you all are saying. Like, what would you literally do? So this is the article by Wired. Coinbase offered them dream jobs and then took them away. That's what I'm saying. Like, what would you really do if this happened to you? Hundreds of prospective employees have been left adrift, including some who were counting on the position for their visas. And I know there's a lot of students that were talking about the fact that they were counting on the visa being taken care of by the company. Those that are on student visa, I think they're called F1, right? Now they got to figure out how they're going to stay in the country. Like, it's a really big deal, especially for those with immigration concerns, right? You think you have it in the bag, you're good, you're set to go, you're looking up apartments, you're kind of changing your life for the job in a lot of times, and we're rescinding the offer. So this is what they're saying. On Thursday, before he was supposed to start a new job at Coinbase, Sam Maher got an email with the subject line, "Update to your Coinbase offer." The update was that there was no offer. In response to current market conditions, the startup had eliminated a number of incoming positions, leaving Maher suddenly unemployed and feeling like he'd been broken up with by email and get the news via email. The same email reached hundreds of others would-be Coinbase employees. So I'm going to pull this up. That is really tough. That is really tough. So it looks like, let me see. I'm already in here. Okay, so I'm going to look at, what is Harold saying? Harold's saying companies are paying better with starting pay. That's true. That is true. Edward says, I would be disappointed, but nothing is guaranteed. Now, that is true. Nothing is guaranteed. But here's my perspective. I've worked at many companies, large, small, medium size. I have not had something like that happen to me as a recruiter. I have not needed to rescind an offer in the situation that the candidate did nothing. The one time I needed to rescind an offer, it was because of a background check not clearing. And this is something that was communicated to the employee. Like, this background has to clear for your offer to be binding, like for us to actually move forward with this. It is contingent on the background check, right? So that's, if someone knows there's something in their background that may come up in a background check and they move forward anyway, that's them kind of taking a chance, right? These folks are in a totally different scenario from that. So from a recruiter standpoint, it really hurts me to even think about a person's experience. Let's not even call these people candidates. They're people. So to take up the time for candidates pursuing a job, great opportunity, and then present an offer to them and then take it back. That is really, for a company to do that, it makes me think that, one, their financials were not on the up and up. They got way ahead of themselves with hiring. And this is what we're seeing a lot of companies doing in terms of all the layoffs that are happening, mainly in the startup space. Got really excited. They need to bring on these, new people. There's a lot of growth going on. There's a lot of investment. And not really foreseeing, like, long-standing companies like a Microsoft, for example, how the future may entail. Just kind of looking at the now, like, hey, we need you guys now. Who cares about 1 to 2, 3 years from now? Who cares about months from now? We need you now. And getting ahead of themselves, providing really good pay and all of that. But what's the point of that if you're going to lay people off afterwards? For example, Peloton. They were hired. I spoke with a few people that were a part of the layoffs at Peloton. Were hired, given really great pay, only for months later to be said sayonara. I actually was with a company that did something similar to that. They are really ahead of themselves in terms of hiring, hire many people, had them move to different locations. Actually, one of the folks I work with, he had moved from he moved to Washington, D.C. afterwards, but I forget where he came from. But he moved to St. Louis, Missouri. Not really a place St. Louis is my home, but it's not really a place where people are like, yeah, I need to move to St. Louis, Missouri. Typically, you move there if there's a job, family life, you meet someone there and y'all get married, like something like that. You're going to school. So he moved there for the job. A few months later was a part of layoffs that they had, and it went back to financials. And my question is, for companies, are you even thinking about the impact that leaves for people? I get the balance of really needing people right now, but that's why certain companies will utilize more so contractors when they can versus full-time positions, because at least then folks kind of know what they're getting themselves into. Just putting that out there. Hey Teddy, how are you? Hello Barry, I saw you in the chat. I think I saw you in the chat somewhere. Lots of people can't afford to drive far enough away to live here and work at Nissan. I don't even remember where you're at, Harold. I know you talk about Nissan a lot. You're working at Nissan, but I don't. Oh, you're in Nashville. Unless you live here in Nashville. That's crazy. That's crazy. In Nashville. Yeah, I'm not really familiar with the Nashville market. I've only been there to visit for vacation. All right, so let me pull up the article so you can actually see what I'm looking at. But it's crazy. I asked the question, what would you actually do? What do you do in that scenario? What can you do? It's not like the job offer, like, can this actually happen? Yes, because again, most companies have language in their offer letters where they're saying this is an at-will employment. It's not binding. It doesn't say, hey, we're in this agreement and we're going to pursue this employee relationship for at least a year, at least 6 months or whatever. They're saying either of us can terminate at any time. So in that sense, on the flip side with companies, there are times where candidates have signed an offer, they're supposed to start, and then they back out and they say, no, I'm not going to start the job with you. In this case, it's the company doing it, but I put a lot more onus on the company only because it sets a precedent, right? I don't know as a job seeker if it would take a lot for me to trust a job offer from Coinbase, given this happening. Now, there's been a lot of shifts. There's been a lot of external factors for Coinbase that they may not have foreseen, but I don't give them a pass on that. So this is the article by Wired. There's a lot of articles out there. They're saying, they're talking about the email. The fact that the employees were broken up with, said, hey, you no longer have this offer that we just gave you by email. I think that's a problem in itself. If you're going to give that type of news, I would expect that type of news to be given from the recruiter that extended the offer. I would imagine that would just be right. Now, on the employee side, right? Employees oftentimes, when they're saying they're not coming to work, they just joined, they signed an offer, they changed their mind. A lot of times it does happen via email. Just to put in that balance there. What do employees do versus what do employers do? But again, employers really have to think about their branding, how they're seen externally, candidate experience. These are the factors that employers should be thinking about. So again, I would put more pressure on the company to do things right as opposed to candidates. I would love for candidates to be more upfront about those sort of things, but they're not a big corporation, right? I'm struggling with this type of scenario. Okay, so they're saying the same email reached hundreds of other would-be Coinbase employees who had start dates ranging from the following week to late summer. The following week? Okay, this is where I have a problem because your start date is the next week. That means most likely you've already given notice in that scenario. Let me pause that. You've already given notice to your company that you're at that you have a new job, likely. Or if maybe you weren't working with a company, you're already putting things in place. If you're going to start with a company next week, you may have moved to a different location. You may have, gotten a new apartment, gotten different things, changed your life to start that job next week. I don't know if this was the case for these employees, but generally, those are some things that happen, right? Next week, again, that just puts that in a totally different light for this company. So, following week to late summer. Late summer, a lot of times internships are starting in the summer. That's what I think of. So Vijay Duraswamy, a software development manager, had already started the onboarding process on a company-issued laptop. This is per Wired. This is what they're saying. Others had signed leases, moved to different cities, or taken expensive vacations to celebrate the new job, which, of course, when you start a new job, you celebrate. Some people celebrate big time. Other people celebrate more on the small scale, like let's have a dinner and toast to this moment. Other people have vacations to celebrate, right? That's what you want people to do. You want employees, when they're starting a new job, to be really excited to start that job, right? Coinbase was offering some severance and an apology. Now, this is what I've heard before, that they were offering a month of severance. It kind of depended on the job. Let's see what they have to say. By the end of the week, LinkedIn was awash. That is true, because you guys know I'm always on LinkedIn. Was awash in posts from Coinbase's rejected workers who seemed angry and confused. They seemed angry and confused. I'm going to get to that, King Gil. I'm going to get to that. I have my thoughts. I'm going to talk about it. Okay, so Coinbase had planned to hire 2,000 employees in 2022 and had already onboarded about 1,200 by May last month. If the company needed to scale back, shouldn't it have done so before making so many job offers? That's my question. This is why we have financial leads within corporations that review hiring needs. They approve hiring before, most of the time it should be, before we even started a job search. As a recruiter, I know a job I'm working on, it is a real job. It's something that we need. It has been vetted through our finance team. It has been vetted by multiple team members within the company before I'm even starting to recruit for that job, right? This is not the case for a lot of startups. They have some, it is a startup, so they're not going to have as heavy a team to vet certain things, right? They're not going to have as many processes in place. However, I feel like something like this should be seen as unacceptable. And I actually liked Coinbase as a company, right? In general, I like that they're in the space within blockchain, within cryptocurrencies. But this is really, I've heard different things about Coinbase that are unsettling. One was about diversity topics and how they were treating their employees of diverse backgrounds. The other is this. This is being a big one too. Both of those are really big to me. Okay. So one of the representatives I later talked to told me if it was a prudent decision by them regarding the current market situation. One software engineer wrote on LinkedIn, "I am left speechless of the irresponsibility Coinbase is showing managing hires and helpless about my current situation." And that's a good point, because you're shifting into a market that is, depending on the space you're in, not as heavy a candidate market. We're going into this shift where it's going to be more of an employer market unless something changes. And what happens when there's an employer market? That just means that there's more people looking for jobs, there's more available labor versus those that need that labor. So companies that are hiring. That's what I'm feeling. That doesn't mean that it's really going to happen. Anything can happen. We've had 2 years of just we never knew this could happen, right? Of surprises and things we don't expect. But that's what I'm feeling right now, just based on the momentum of people that are now looking for jobs and the worries of recession, which King of Kill just pointed out. Okay, so this is something else I want to point out. So this is another person. Ashutosh Uki had accepted the offer to work at Coinbase back in March. He had applied to a PhD program, but working for the cryptocurrency startup felt like a one-of-a-kind opportunity. Coinbase's remote work policy also afforded him the ability to move wherever he wanted, and he quickly signed a lease for an apartment in Dayton, Ohio, to be closer to his girlfriend. Y'all, I'm going to take this away just so I can address Teddy's comment. I'm going to pause. In terms of the recession, so I want to talk about the job market. And this is like, it's really sunny here. Goodness. Whew. I'm trying to not have the sun in my face, but this is kind of where my setup is. Okay, so Teddy, about the recession, I think certain locations will be hit harder. And I think certain industries will be hit harder if we are moving into a recession. I feel like we are already in one, because if you're pulling money out per the Fed, right? Interest rates are going higher. People are not, our economy really runs on consumer spending and debt. And if there's less of that happening, then of course we're going to be we are technically going to be in a recession, I think. However, we have to remember that a lot of things have been inflated. I have to remind myself that all the time. With looking at the stock market, for example, I look at my portfolio, I look at the history of it, and I remember how things were and where prices were before 2020 and before 2021, before the Fed started just like they were at a certain club dishing out money into the market and buying up assets and really inflating things. So we were inflated heavily, right? I feel like we're getting that pullback for it to be a little bit more normal. My concern is that prices, my question is, I mentally I can understand what the Fed is doing, but I'm also wondering the timing of if prices actually will go down. I don't know. I don't know if all prices will really go down in terms of housing, in terms of, certain supplier costs. And I just don't see that happening. That's my issue right now. My issue isn't so much, okay, we're shifting into an employer market. Maybe it may be tougher than it was to get jobs. Like people were just giving away jobs, right? It may be a little more balanced. I feel like it's just a little more balanced now. Not that there aren't jobs. What I see happening is the startup space, things are becoming more realistic. Investors are saying, look, this company we've been funneling money into, or I would have invested into, but they are actually making profits. Why don't I move my money elsewhere, right? And so in the startup space, things are beginning to be tighter for them. So of course they're going to stop hiring or do less hiring, right? Or be tighter with their financials, which they should have been doing anyway. You, as a company, I would expect you to, if you're hiring or if you're investing, if you're, acquiring companies, whatever you're doing, to be very cautious about it. But we were just in a market that was just very frenzied. People were going crazy. Oh, I got to buy everything up, right? As a consumer, we got to buy this. We got to go on vacation. We got to get all this stuff that we couldn't get in 2020. And also companies were in a place where, oh my gosh, we have no employees and we have all this demand. We need so many people. We are in a frenzy. We need everybody. And so now all of the smoke is clearing and we're like, oh, okay, we're getting a little bit back to normal. That's my perspective as of right now. Will that change in the future as different things happen? Sure. But the startup space with the tech jobs, I made a video where I'm talking about the tech layoffs because there have been plenty. Carvana, Better.com. We've got Netflix had a period of layoffs. We've had a bunch of companies, right? most in the tech, but majority of them in the startup space. The companies like a Microsoft, Amazon, some of the long-standing companies are looking for tech folks. I just made a video where I'm talking about big banks are looking for tech folks. They need tech folks so they can now compete with Robinhood, right? And Ally.com, the online banks that have been digitalized and have been able to support their customers that need, they need stuff where they don't need to go into a bank, right? So they need people to actually do that, and they're going to have to do it. They have to shift. It's a need for them. If they want to hold on to their customers, they have to do it. So yes, they are going to need tech workers. So tech folks that are, maybe you're at a startup and you're worried, you might want to just look at some longer standing companies that are going to have to continue innovating. They have been proven to make profits, right? They have long standing stockholders and investors and processes and systems and cash on hand, like Microsoft, for example. They keep cash. They can weather through a storm. I'm not supporting Microsoft. I'm not pushing them. I don't work for Microsoft, but I'm just saying that's one, for example. Hello, KB. Welcome. Shout out to my members in the chat. I appreciate y'all. I appreciate you being here, especially with me being late. I'm so sorry. Those stimulus checks kept us artificially afloat. Yes, and the stimulus checks, the PPP loans, a lot of that is clearing up and things are becoming more realistic. And so all that's drying up. And so what happens? People spend less. If you don't feel rich, you don't feel like you have all this money, you're going to spend less. Right? And then companies are going to say, oh, we don't need as many people because we don't have as high of the demand that we did before. It's not this crazy frenzy, right? What is the title of this video? What else do we need to talk about? I do want to go through the article a little bit more, but it's wild. It's wild. It is wild right now. Okay, let me see so I said, what is happening in the job market from a recruiter? Okay, so I'm touching on everything, right? I'm touching on what I said I was going to talk about in this video. But in terms of a recession, something that I do want to talk about in a video, I'll have to pre-record it. A recession from a recruiter standpoint, time of recession, of course, every company is going to pull back. No company, no job is really safe necessarily. However, in the terms of the HR world, human resources, typically recruiter jobs aren't looked at first when wanting to make pullbacks with overhead costs. Normally, what I have seen, and again, I'll make a video about this, but what I have seen is more of the training and development benefits, more of the extras, extra perks, people that are leading extra programs with students and just initiatives like that are just like goodwill initiatives and things that aren't really as crucial. Trainings that, if they have multiple trainers, they may cut some of those folks. I've seen large and medium-sized companies do that I have worked at. And that it kind of makes sense because in terms of with companies, they're going to hire. Someone's going to leave. Some new initiative is going to happen. Something's going to happen. Like they do need people that are brand ambassadors for the company. They're managing recruitment because the hiring managers don't want to do it and they don't have time to do it. And they also, most companies, if they're going to pull back, they're likely going to pull back on their external recruiting services because that can be really pricey for companies to pay an external service, an agency, to find them people and place them in that can be expensive for companies. It's actually cheaper for companies to have corporate recruiters than to have, to work with so many agencies. That's just been my view. Let's see what Teddy is saying. So this recession is a direct result of the video. Are you saying the video? I think there's a lot of factors at play in terms of, again, I don't think anyone has said officially that we're in a recession. right now, because we have to have what, 2 periods, right? 2 quarters of a downturn. But I mean, to me, there's a couple aspects to it. I feel like we create the recession as people, because if we think that things are good, things are afloat, everyone's spending money, investing, what are we going to do? We're going to be comfortable. We're going to say, hey, it's money time. Like, let me get out here and start buying. Let me start, doing some things. Let me start moving and shaking. When we're feeling like there is a recession coming, what do we do with our money? We hold it. We're like, oh, let me put a little more in savings. Let's cut back on this. Let's not spend that. In the United States, we run on spending. Let's just say we run on spending. We run on debt. We run on all those things. And so I feel like in some ways, we as people, if the news is talking about a recession, they're trying to get a recession. And of course, the government, the Fed, they're not going to say this. In my view, they want a recession to happen because they need the dry bag. They're trying to control this inflation. They don't want inflation to just keep getting out of control. And we don't want that either as people. We're not going to say we want this to happen in terms of a recession, but we also don't want inflation. So what's the only way that you can actually stop things from inflating? The bubble got to pop. How does it pop? You got to reel out some of that money. You got to stop companies from upping costs and upping, pay ranges and upping. You have to stop it some way. And so I've seen some news where they're even saying that the government is telling companies to stop hiring. So what I see are a lot of things aligning to where they want some of this. I don't know if it will really be a long-term recession. I don't think anyone. But I do see, just based on what I've been seeing in the news, that this is what they're wanting. They want a slowdown because they want to stop the inflation. They want the inflation to get under control, which I don't think any of us do. Oh, yeah, the cough. Okay. Yes, I do. I think a lot of this was pushed forward because of the cough. Yes, I do agree. Oh, my audio is garbled. Okay, let me see if I can do something about that. Okay, this is a test. How does it sound right now? Does it still sound funny? Is it still sounding funny? Oh, it still sounds bad. Okay. I sound like Fred. I sound robotic. Okay, is it still bad right now? I just closed out StreamYard on my computer. KB is saying, yeah. I don't know, y'all. Okay. Is it bad now? Real brother said you look like a dream, but sound like a nightmare. Oh, that's terrible. But thank you. And hey, how are you? Does it still sound bad? Oh, so we're gonna have to end it then if it sounds terrible. I'll do this. I'm going to end this out and I'll restart a new video. And then we can talk about the rest of this. So I'm going to peace out. I'll be right back in like 5 minutes.